Picture this. You invite two friends to a weekend gathering. One replies within seconds, "Sounds amazing. I'll be there." The other politely declines. Not because they're busy, not because they're upset. They simply say, "I think I'll spend the day by myself." Most people immediately make an assumption. They must be lonely. They're probably shy. Maybe something is wrong. But psychology tells a very different story. In fact, some people don't spend time alone because they're disconnected from the world. They spend time alone because it's where they feel most connected to themselves. So why does solitude feel peaceful for some people, while silence feels unbearable for others? The answer begins inside the human mind. In today's world, being constantly connected has become the norm. Messages never stop, notifications compete for our attention, and busy social calendars are often treated like signs of a successful life. Because of that, choosing to be alone is sometimes misunderstood. But being alone and being lonely are not the same experience. Loneliness is the painful feeling of lacking meaningful connection, while solitude is the intentional choice to spend time with yourself. For many people, solitude isn't an escape from life. It's a chance to recharge, think clearly, and reconnect with what truly matters. Understanding this difference changes the way we see people who enjoy their own company. Imagine trying to read a book while 10 different conversations are happening around you. Most people would struggle to focus. Now imagine experiencing something similar during everyday life. For some individuals, constant conversation, background noise, and endless social interaction create mental overload. It's not that they dislike people. Their mind simply works better in quieter environments. Moments of silence allow them to organize their thoughts, reflect on experiences, and understand their emotions more clearly. Many creative ideas don't appear in crowded places. They often emerge during a quiet walk, while writing in a journal, or while sitting alone without interruptions. Solitude gives the brain room to connect ideas that might otherwise remain hidden. For these individuals, being alone isn't empty. It's one of the most productive states their mind can experience. Another reason some people prefer solitude is that they value depth over constant interaction. Some people enjoy meeting new faces every weekend, while others would rather have one meaningful conversation than dozens of casual ones. Psychology suggests that people differ not only in how much social interaction they enjoy, but also in the type of connection they seek. Those who prefer being alone are often less interested in talking simply to fill silence. Instead, they appreciate conversations that are thoughtful, honest, and emotionally meaningful. Because those moments are relatively rare, they may spend long periods happily on their own instead of constantly searching for company. From the outside, that choice can seem unusual, but for them, it isn't about avoiding people. It's about waiting for relationships and conversations that genuinely add value to their lives. And here's where the story becomes even more interesting. Some people don't spend time alone because they dislike the world. They spend time alone because solitude changes the way they experience it. When the outside world becomes quiet, their inner world becomes much louder. They notice ideas they would normally ignore. They process emotions more carefully, and they often gain perspectives that are difficult to discover in the middle of constant noise. Sometimes the most meaningful conversations we'll ever have are the ones we quietly have with ourselves. One of the greatest benefits of spending time alone is the opportunity to truly understand yourself. Think about how often people move from one task to another without ever slowing down. A notification appears, a phone rings, another conversation begins, and before they realize it, the entire day has passed. In that constant movement, there is very little space to ask simple but important questions. How am I really feeling? Am I living according to my values? What kind of person do I want to become? People who enjoy solitude often create space for those questions. During quiet moments, they replay important experiences, examine their emotions, and reflect on the choices they have made. Healthy self-reflection can strengthen self-awareness, helping people better understand their strengths, weaknesses, motivations, and long-term goals. That's why solitude isn't always about escaping the outside world. Sometimes it's about finally hearing your own thoughts without interruption. Another fascinating difference is that social interaction doesn't affect everyone in the same way. Imagine two phones with different battery sizes. One can last all day on a single charge, while the other needs to be recharged much more often. Neither phone is defective. They're simply designed differently. Human beings can be surprisingly similar. After spending hours in meetings, family gatherings, crowded events, or long conversations, some people feel energized and excited. Others feel mentally exhausted and need quiet time to recover. Personality research suggests that individuals differ in how they respond to social stimulation. For some people, frequent interaction requires a great deal of mental effort, especially when they rarely have time to pause and reset. That doesn't mean they dislike friends, family, or meaningful relationships. It simply means they also need periods of calm to restore their mental energy. Reading a book, taking a peaceful walk, listening to music, or simply sitting in silence can help them regain the focus and balance they need. For them, solitude isn't isolation. It's a form of recovery. There is another reason why being alone can feel so refreshing. Every social situation comes with small, invisible expectations. We think about saying the right thing, making a good impression, responding appropriately, and understanding how others might interpret our words. Most of the time, we don't even notice how much mental energy those small social adjustments require. But when a person is alone, those expectations disappear. There is no audience to impress, no pressure to perform, and no need to explain every thought or decision. That freedom creates a unique sense of peace. It becomes easier to think clearly, create without comparison, and simply exist without feeling judged. For many people, this freedom is one of the most valuable parts of solitude. It reminds them that their worth doesn't depend on constantly meeting other people's expectations. When someone says, "I just need some time alone," it's easy to misunderstand what they mean. We often assume they're pulling away from people or avoiding relationships. But in many cases, the opposite is true. They're not running away from others. They're returning to themselves. They're creating the quiet space necessary to recover, reflect, and reconnect with the parts of themselves that can easily become lost in the noise of everyday life. Sometimes the healthiest thing a person can do isn't to speak more, socialize more, or stay busier. Sometimes it's simply to pause, breathe, and spend a little time alone with their own thoughts. People who enjoy spending time alone are often misunderstood. Society sometimes assumes that if someone turns down invitations, enjoys quiet weekends, or prefers reading a book over attending a crowded event, they must be lonely or unhappy. But outward behavior doesn't always reveal what's happening inside the mind. Many people who value solitude have strong friendships, close family relationships, and meaningful social connections. The difference is that they tend to be intentional about where they invest their time and emotional energy. Rather than trying to maintain a large circle of acquaintances, they often prefer a small number of relationships built on trust, honesty, and mutual respect. For them, meaningful connection is far more valuable than constant connection. They don't avoid people because they dislike them. They simply recognize that not every conversation is meaningful, and not every social event deserves their limited time and attention. Another remarkable aspect of solitude is its connection to creativity and deep thinking. Think about the moments when you've had your best ideas. Chances are they didn't appear while your phone was constantly buzzing or while you were surrounded by noise. They probably arrived during a quiet walk, while driving alone, taking a shower, or sitting peacefully with your thoughts. Many writers, artists, scientists, entrepreneurs, and inventors intentionally create uninterrupted time because silence gives the brain room to explore ideas without distraction. When external stimulation decreases, the mind often has more freedom to notice patterns, make unexpected connections, and solve complex problems. This doesn't mean that being alone automatically makes someone more creative or more intelligent. It simply means that many people find it easier to think deeply when they have the time and space to focus without interruption. At the same time, it's important to understand that healthy solitude and unhealthy isolation are not the same thing. Healthy solitude is a choice. It's the decision to spend time alone because it brings peace, clarity, or emotional renewal. Isolation, on the other hand, is often unwanted. It can involve feeling disconnected from others, lacking meaningful relationships, or wishing for connection but struggling to find it. Psychology recognizes this important distinction. Spending time alone can support reflection, creativity, and emotional balance for many people, but supportive relationships also play a vital role in long-term well-being. Human beings are social by nature, yet the amount of social interaction that feels healthy can vary greatly from one person to another. Some people feel energized after spending hours with friends, while others need quiet time afterward to recharge. Neither approach is inherently better. They simply reflect different personalities, preferences, and ways of restoring mental energy. Perhaps the biggest lesson is that enjoying solitude isn't about rejecting the world. It's about creating space to understand yourself within it. In a culture that often celebrates constant activity and endless social interaction, choosing moments of silence can feel unusual. Yet those quiet moments are often where people process emotions, discover new ideas, make thoughtful decisions, and reconnect with what matters most. Solitude gives us an opportunity to step away from outside expectations and listen to our own thoughts with greater honesty. So the next time you meet someone who enjoys being alone, try not to assume they're lonely, antisocial, or unhappy. They may simply have discovered a different way of restoring their energy and finding peace. They understand that a meaningful life isn't measured by the number of conversations we have or the size of our social circle. It's measured by the quality of our relationships, the clarity of our thoughts, and the sense of purpose we bring to our daily lives. Whether you recharge in the company of others or in the quiet comfort of solitude, the goal isn't to prove that one lifestyle is better than another. The goal is to understand yourself well enough to know what helps you grow, what gives you peace, and what allows you to become the best version of yourself. If you enjoyed this exploration into human psychology, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you feel most alive in the middle of a crowd, or do you find your greatest peace in moments of solitude? If you'd like to explore more of the hidden patterns behind human behavior, consider subscribing. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.